So I'm looking at my face and they can move around it with all this technology, and he bends my nose straight and then he starts shrinking it. I was like, oh, bloody hell, this guy I'm going to be is the nuts. He's a handsome man.
Hello amateurs, Happy New Year and welcome to episode 17 of the Amateur Rugby Podcast. Here to help soothe your Sunday morning hangover with some incredible rugby chat about the grassroots of the game. I'm your host Tim, and today I'm at Richmond Rugby Club to watch the oldest club fixture in the world, Richmond versus Blackheath. And well, it's cold, it's very cold actually, and it's grey, which is pretty typical for this time of year in England's capital. So, first game back after the Xmas break for most of you yesterday. How did it feel? Anyone overdo it during the festive period? I'm sure plenty of you did, you crazy amateurs. The last episode, before our short Christmas break, was with the wonderful Jeff Griffiths, who gave us a really detailed insight about what it's like to be stuck in the void just outside the Premiership and his thoughts about the best solution for young players. But my guest this week is Hollywood movie director James Griffiths. Griff was also my teammate and captain at Old Colfeians Rugby Club, but being a Hollywood movie director sounds somewhat more impressive. This interview was recorded in September of 2019 and it went in all manner of directions. It really ebbed and flowed, not just through the highs and lows of rugby, but of life in general. Like you parents out there who are not supposed to have a favourite child, I'm not supposed to have a favourite podcast. But if I did, then it might just be this one. Shh, don't tell the others. So, please give it up for James Griffiths.
James Griffiths, welcome to the Amateur Rugby Podcast.
Thank you, Timmy.
It's lovely to be here in your parents' house.
Yes, I'm still living at home. That's not true. I'm visiting my parents over in Chislehurst in the southeast of England, and visiting them and saying hello to all my family over here.
Lovely, mate. So we'll just start at the beginning in terms of your rugby. When did you first pick up a ball and start playing?
I actually, a friend of mine at junior school, Jason Fairbrass, came from a very big rugby family, and his dad was a player and a coach at Sidcup under Minis, I guess. So when I was 7, I started sort of throwing the ball about with Jason on a Sunday. Got introduced to kind of communal baths, general...
That's your first memory, isn't it?
Yeah, basically. The horror of a communal muddy bath at Sidcup, at RFC, if anyone's ever been there. I kind of loved it. Also was really cold and didn't like it. And then I did it for a couple of years, I guess, just minis on a Sunday, but very casually. But I was a soccer player through and through.
Yeah.
And then when I got to my senior school, I ended up passing the 11 plus, which sort of drove me into this fork in the road, I guess, where I stopped being a soccer player. They didn't play soccer or football. God, I'm so bloody American.
So American, Griff.
I stopped playing football and they played rugby. So I started playing rugby proper then, I guess. But I was terrible. I was a tiny boy. I didn't really grow until I was 16. So I was on the wing, fullback. I did actually, by the end of it, I was kind of moved up to fly half, like under 14s, under 15s,
the
under 16s.
Footballing skills showing through.
Yeah, I could kick a ball, I guess. I was terrified though. Everyone was twice the size of me. I was like constantly asking my dad, when am I going to grow? Because he's a big lad. He's like, my dad's 6'3", so I thought I'm going to grow and be able to... No, I didn't for a long time. And I was probably one of the smallest in my year. So I was kind of B team, fly half. Right. Got a little bit better, got into sort of 18 fly half, I guess. But I was never great. Could take a conversion. I spent every lunchtime kicking a ball. I'd sign a ball out of the laundry room and kick between the posts. And my heroes were like Dusty Hare and all those guys.
You're showing your age there, mate.
Yeah, exactly. I used to go to Twickenham a lot, but it was definitely a sort of... And then when I was 16, I just grew one summer and I came back and they put me in the second row.
And that was it?
And that was it. I was stuck
never to kick a ball again?
Well, weirdly, I still took conversions for my team.
Nice, like John Eales.
John Eales, yes. Thank you for that.
You're welcome.
I was as good as John Eales, is what I'm saying. We were as good as... I was as good as John. So, I was a sort of a conversion kicking second row, footballing second row. I was just lanky, really.
Yeah.
That was the start of it, and then obviously once you're in it and you meet a group of mates, you sort of never give it up. That was the thing for me, was the only reason I wanted to stay at school was to play first team rugby. And I guess that was the incentive, was just hanging out with your mates every practice, and it was a social. It always was.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, but like you say, you did grow and you filled out and everything, and you know, turned into quite a commanding second row when we first met, which was at Old Colfeians.
Yes.
And you were captain. Actually, it wasn't the first year you were captain, but you were captain the second and third year that I was there, I think.
Yes.
So what was it like leading the merry band of men that is Old Colfeians?
Well, I want to talk first of all about your first appearance down there, because I remember you coming training. Because Old Colfeians, as a club, has a reputation for being a little bit soft. We don't have an edge. A lot of the players come from kind of either the city or... I guess they kind of come from backgrounds that don't demand a lot of kind of edge, like farmers or builders or scaffolders. There was a lot of kind of more cerebral kind of players there.
Commuter belt kind of.
So when you arrived, I remember that summer training, we were all kind of just doing the usual contact, which I'm doing my two fingers, which for us was kind of some gentle hugging, and just sort of looking after each other. And you came in, I remember taking the ball in and just getting absolutely smashed by you. And I was like, well, one, that's very un-Colfeian of you to do that. But two, I think the culture down here is going to make a significant and needed shift. And with you and Tassel came back from a bit of professional rugby, playing at Blackheath, and then Ben Hyde as well. It was definitely, during my captaining years, I guess, it was transitioning between a very social and kind of elegant footballing playing club, you know, a very kind of expansive, and we just sort of gained a bit of an edge that we needed with the influx of a few boys from Gloucester. You brought some of that kind of country edge.
Well, the funny thing is, I think I was very much considered quite a soft player from back home.
Where you were.
Yeah, from where I was one of the softer lads for sure.
Yeah.
So to come to London and obviously then have that kind of impression, just, I guess this is this rugby culture kind of, like the differences across the country and stuff like that.
Yeah, and I think it definitely elevated the influx of that Gloucester edge that came into the team when you arrived, was exactly what we needed to sort of elevate what we were doing, which we were doing. We were having a lot of fun and we were playing some great rugby, but we would often get beaten up by teams a little bit harder than us, and we certainly could then start matching those teams with a bit of an edge. We had some great players like Andy Baker, who was a grizzly, sort of, but very small, but grizzly and wise player. And we had, you know, not people aren't going to thank me, people like Quilts and stuff, for saying we were soft, but there is an edge. You know what it's like. Yeah. We played together and there's just a little bit more of an onus on fun and not so much on the kind of dark arts. So when you guys came in, it sort of made my job a lot easier, actually, because a lot of that captaining or leadership was about just motivation, trying to get everyone to kind of...
And how did you do that? What were some of your thoughts and tactics on that?
You know what, Tim? I've learned so much about leadership through my captaining years. In fact, I still call back a load of those experiences in the job I do now, which is essentially being a leader of a big team of people with different skill sets. And the one great thing about rugby is you're bringing together people with very different senses of motivation, what gets them going, what they need to get the best out of them. Like, all I was trying to do was set everyone up for success. So in order to get the best out of them, you're just sort of, okay, well, this guy needs to yell at a wall for an hour, and this guy needs some quiet time and some yoga, and this guy needs to talk everything through, and this guy needs to shout out loud, like a Colin Garland needs to sort of shout through his gum shield at everyone. Like, everyone needed something different. And as a captain, you become very aware that that's your job, is to kind of harness all those different energies and not try and create a culture of like, this is the way we do it, but more a culture of inclusion, so that you're listening. Everyone's heard. And I think when you're an amateur rugby player, you're not doing it for the money. You're doing it because you enjoy it. So the level of enjoyment has to be high. So we, you know, just things that we started to... I'd listen to people. Some people like to play Elvis, so Elvis became a big thing. Frank Sinatra became a big thing. We'd have all these different musical tastes and embrace them all. So by the end of it, I guess by the first couple of years, during the height of that period, there was a very strong collective culture that we all felt some sort of ownership over, which I think is the basis of a good team, is that you're all heard, you all have a voice, and you all get something out of it in the end. So not everyone loved Frank or Elvis, but they did like the Strokes. They did like Andy's warm-up music. They did like James Rutter's yoga that he would do which I didn't know was yoga at the time, but his interesting stretches.
Yeah. So just to fill that out a bit, I'd forgotten about that until you just mentioned yoga then.
Yeah.
We used to regularly, like for years, do yoga as part of our match day warm-up.
Yeah. But no one knew what it was.
Not really.
But one player, James Rutter, sort of very elevated, sort of intellectual Cambridge graduate, but a lovely, lovely chap, great man with games, inventing games, very inventive. He would sort of make us do these downward dogs now, you'd know, as like sunshine, what are they called? Sun salutes.
Yeah.
We do the full...
Salutations. Yeah, that's it.
But you sort of, they were just really big stretches, which was actually like very, very good for us mentally. And at the time, I didn't know anything about yoga. I hadn't been to LA. It hadn't sort of moved over. But looking back at it, that mental preparation was key. Like we'd all focus in on this thing, which was really good. And the other thing we did as that part of our match prep that we became very good at was we played football, soccer. There's a lot of good soccer players in our team, and we play soccer with a rugby ball as part of our warm-up. So we put Taff, normally Steve Corlett, our hooker, in goal. And then there'd be a load of crosses flying in, and we'd be smacking
headers and volleys.
Headers and volleys, essentially. Again, it was like it almost became like a lucky charm for us that, however, when I could always tell when we were going to do well is how relaxed we were. Like we were definitely a group of players that we discovered that tension was not our friend. That as players fun was got to be at the very top of our motivation. Like the idea of smiling through it, laughing through it. If we could do that, then it was all worth it. And I think that was, So captaining the side, to your question, I'm waffling, it was an honour really, because I just felt like just a great group of lads who all wanted to do something, and I was able to just harness a bit of that energy because I like that. I liked it. I was getting something out of it.
Yeah.
I definitely wasn't the best player by far, but I was.
But that's not necessarily important, is it? As a captain, I don't think that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
I think it's being somebody that people follow is the most important thing, by example or by what you say, or, lots of different things. You don't have to be the best player, but I mean, you were pretty good.
No, but I think a lot of it as well was there was a lot of good, and a lot of, teams now talk about it in the professional era, but there was a core group of leaders within the leadership group. So when I first started as captain, or when I first joined the club, actually, there was a number of very senior players who were great leaders. I sort of saw that model working. It wasn't just one captain. There was a number of different captains, but there was some good players who would just sort of support. And when I was there, it was like you, Ben Hyde, Towner. There was a group there that was really strong. And then, of course, some of those boys, the younger boys, came through, like Lukey and Haggis and Wixie. They all became great captains in their own right because they were just part of this core group. So it was a lot of fun, basically. And it was good just to watch everyone from being at the club, watching that culture develop. And we got a sense that we owned it, which was always good. And then you want every team to have their own thing and develop that,
Yeah, it's definitely important to build your own culture. Don't try and copy anybody else's.
No.
Find your own way. Find what bring everything together and take little bits from this and that. And then...
Yeah, I think that's one of the hardest things actually when you've had a great team, and I do it a lot with work. I'll turn up and I try and develop a culture very quickly to get the best out of the team when we're doing a film project. And then I have to hand that over and move on to another thing. And what you can't do is try and replicate what you had there in this new space. What you have to do is actually just start listening again. And it's slightly exhausting. Yeah. You're just starting from scratch. But what you're trying to do is listen to all those new personalities, understand what they need, and then you can
build something unique
around them. And then they feel like they own it, and then they're not being imposed upon. So it's like, I guess it's that leadership of listening, and just using the best out, setting them all up. If you could be the smallest part of a big thing rather than the biggest part of a small thing, like if you can just engage all these players, get the best out of every single person, make them play their best, then you're going to have a great collective, result, I guess.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, let's move on to broken noses.
Yes,
you had a few of those, didn't you, through the career?
Yeah, I tell you what, it started when I was 13. I was on the way to the fair, and a couple of likely lads
Really?
Yeah, a couple of local lads, just walked up to me. I remember I had a brand new pair of Puma Californias from the catalogue that I was paying back at £2 a month. They were bright blue. I was very proud of them.
Littlewood's catalogue, was it?
Freeman's.
Freeman's, okay.
Yeah, which I liked a lot. Especially the... some of the pages were very well thumbed in my house. But I had, so I got these Puma Californias. My sister was running the catalogue. And I was walking down to the fair and these guys said, "Oh, mate, I like your trainers." And I turned around and I was like, "Thanks." And he just smacked me square on the nose, broke my nose. I was quite a handsome chap before then. And I could give him a call out, actually, a shout out. I know his name. Remy Advan, if you're out there. Broke my nose. And then I guess it became like a beacon that attracted any impact that I had during the rest of my rugby career. It would like bleed at the touch of I was basically playing most of my games with, I guess like mini tampons up my nose, breathing through my mouth, Vaseline stuffed up there. Like I would get a nosebleed within the first 30 seconds of a game.
If not the warm up.
Yeah.
I just seem to remember your nose bleeding constantly.
All the time. Just my shirt was just claret down the front over every player that I played with. Apologies. There was blood everywhere. But I did break it on that break. I then broke it 4 more times. Never got it set.
Right.
But I went to LA and I had some surgery. So.
I was going to say, is it all fixed
now?
Now
I'm gorgeous. Yeah. No, they just basically drilled 2 holes. They couldn't fix it really, so they just drilled 2 holes in so I can actually breathe out of it, which is like and taste stuff.
Yeah. Is that a bit of a game changer? Is that?
Yeah. Have you done yours?
No, I feel like I should. This is why I keep bringing it up because I've spoken to a few people about this now on the podcast. Martin Davies had it done.
Yes. It's a game changer.
Yeah.
Like I got used to, you start to, because your body adapts so quickly, I got used to the fact that I was a guy who could only mouth breathe.
Yeah.
Essentially. So when I go out for a run, it was all, I would never use this other tool. So it was really hard. I get out of breath, like if I was cycling, for instance, you're doing the same thing. I highly recommend it. I mean, the actual pain of the surgery itself is ridiculous.
Right.
Mainly because you can't sleep, because you've got to sleep sitting up.
Right.
But
for how long?
For about 3 nights or something,
okay.
4 nights. It's not bad.
Yeah.
It's not awful. And then afterwards, they pull out the sort of plastic mesh, and that's a bit of a shock. But then once you get that, well, it is amazing.
Yeah,
it's
definitely
amazing.
worth it.
Yeah, I mean, they didn't make it smaller.
I can see that, mate.
I would have just thought while you were there,
just shave a bit off.
Just have a look. See, I mean, we all know what the world should look like, what a handsome face should look like. Just look at that. But no, they just went in and drilled some holes.
It worked. Okay, well...
But yours suits you. That's the thing I was most worried about, actually, because I went to one surgeon in Beverly Hills, and I was a recommend from this assistant I had. And I went in there, and they took some 3D pictures, and then they started looking at my face in a 3D. So I'm looking at my face, and they can move around it with all this technology, and he bends my nose straight, and then he starts shrinking it. I was like, oh, bloody hell, this guy I'm going to be is the nuts. He's a handsome man. And then he starts playing with my chin. He's like, do you want a little chin implant here? Because we can just pull that out. You're going to have a much more sort of masculine jaw. I was like, what are you saying about my jaw now? So now I'm like looking at my nose thinking, oh shit, I need to get that done. Then I'm thinking, well, he said some people like need the jaw implant because it makes them feel more masculine when they go into a meeting or something. I say, well, A, very sexist. Just because I'm a man doesn't mean I'm going to lead a board meeting. But B, I feel like now I need it, which is why. But now I just grow a beard to give myself a chin.
That's what I do as well. It really works. It really works.
Give yourself a jawline with a beard, ladies and gentlemen. That's the way to do it.
Well, gentlemen, probably.
Gentlemen. Yeah. But they yes. So I didn't use that surgeon, but I kept the photo, and it's the best looking version of me.
Right.
If I'd have spent $50,000. But I just got very frightened about changing the character of my face by making my nose small.
Yeah.
But you've got a lovely, you've got a good...
Bit of a banana. Yeah.
But now I can wear glasses because of the nose. It's slightly straighter, so I can actually... Because before I was like this.
Mine are like that. Just for the listeners, Griff is just holding his glasses at a wonky angle. Yeah. Which often happens to me.
At one point, I went and bought a pair of sunglasses when I was younger, and I took them back because I said they're broken. They said, no, he just looked at me, stared at me for a few seconds. I think that might be your nose.
Just this.
It was just like so wonky. Yes. So noses, I recommend it. Yeah, get it done.
Okay, cool. Now back to playing. Whilst at Old Colfeians, you went on and played for Kent as well, which was great. You were kind of the first of our group, our generation, to go and achieve that. So I just wanted to hear from you about what that experience was like and any highlights from that time playing for the county.
Yeah, I mean, I'd had a great experience when I was sort of 19, I guess. I'd played for the Colts with Martin Davey, I believe another one of your guests,
Yes.
Dave Rogers, a few of us played at under 19. So I'd sort of been in that group and knew how tough it was, actually, just the schedule and all that stuff. But I was honoured to get the call up, actually, and I felt like a bit of I was representing the whole team when I was playing for them, because essentially 14 of the other team were Westcombe Park players. We were our local rivals. At the time, Old Colfeians and Westcombe Park were very much kind of local Kent rivals and had some very brilliant games actually against each other. And yeah, so I turned up and I knew all their faces, but mostly faces that I'd wanted to punch or been punched by.
Yeah.
But we knew each other, which was good. But I was kind of at the end, or I guess, or peak of my playing career when I went through that Kent system, and I really enjoyed it. I have to say, I met some great lads there. The Westcombe Park boys actually were, counter to what I say before and after, were actually really nice blokes. I wouldn't ever tell them before or after a Saturday, but they were a good bunch. I met some good friends. So you obviously went on to play with a few of them, but we had a great run. We played some very good counties, so we got knocked into the plate. And then we went up to Leicestershire and we won the semi-final by a point in the last minute. And then we made it to Twickenham, which was just a schoolboy dream.
Yeah.
In fact, the story of my Twickenham outing was, not only was it just the most amazing experience as an amateur rugby player, feeling like I'd probably never play there, having wanted to do that from when I was like 12 years old. And finally getting that opportunity was amazing. I worked really, really hard to get in that team. And within the first 10 minutes, we played the three counties. So Notts Links Derby, the sort of small counties, they play as one county, don't they? And we played them in the semis. They're a very good team. A lot of the sort of Leicestershire boys and, some good lads. We were physically beaten up a bit, and I broke my thumb in the first 10 minutes.
Oh.
But I knew I'd broken it, but I just pretended I'd dislocated it. So the physio came on and just sort of in a bucket skewed it back into its joint, but I could feel it was broken. We strapped it up and I played on through half time. I was like, I've got to stay on for as long as possible. But come about 60 minutes, I was absolute agony. My hand was like an apple. I couldn't catch, couldn't bind. But I still had a massive grin on my face. I was basically running around Twickenham going, just keep going, just keep going.
Having a brilliant time.
Yeah, they took me off and I went and had a great night. Very good night, actually, with the physio. Yeah. And then woke up and went to hospital and had to have like a nail put through my thumb. I'd broken it, my carpal, whatever, metacarpal, something.
Carpal,
yeah, the thing, the really deep one.
Yeah.
They put a nail in it.
I bet that was throbbing in the morning, wouldn't it?
With the hangover.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't wake up at my house, is what I'm saying, Tim. Did you play? Did you have a good run with Kent? What was your experience like?
Like it was. Yeah, we didn't get out of the group. I don't think. I only played for Kent for one season, basically.
Yeah,
and it was good. It was good fun. Like it was brilliant to play at that high level where everything's just a bit faster and a bit more physical. And I really enjoyed that part of it. In fact, I really enjoyed all of it. But we didn't have the run to Twickenham that you had, which would just be. Yeah, boyhood dreams kind of stuff, really. Yeah,
I remember going to get my loser's medal and everyone was sort of looking sad. And I looked around me and I was like, massive grin, just so happy to be there. I was like, this is I can basically retire at this point. But no, I agree with you. I think that county rugby is so valuable. It is a step up. I remember just that we played against basically the Henley first team, who were kind of at the time must have been Div 1 or something. They were 2 leagues above the standard I'd been playing at National 3, and they were incredibly quick. And I remember that like blowing out of my arse, just feeling like this.
You just can't quite get near the game.
No, you just
influence anything.
You just feel like you're a second behind everything that's happening. Clearing a ruck out, you're late, the ball's gone. It was a real shock to the system. But we did. I think moving into the plate, it allowed us. I think that's the luck of those competitions. Actually, I've had it with sevens as well, right, where it's sometimes fortunate just to get knocked out and you get a better run in your standard. You get to a final or something, whereas you wouldn't do if you'd sort of continue to get knocked out straight away. But no, I think that if that, for the amateur rugby player, that county competition is just the best, I think, because it really does give you a taste of something different. It gives you a taste of what it might be like to play at a representative level, on a bigger stage, I guess. And the coaches were good. I learned a bit. I learned a fair bit.
Yeah, and one thing I wanted to ask you about or mention as well was, long before Scotty Robertson's been doing this for Canterbury Crusaders, you used to enjoy a little bit of breakdancing, Griff, didn't you?
Yes.
And I believe you breakdanced on the Twickenham pitch.
I did.
Wearing full kit.
I did, yes.
With a broken thumb now, I understand.
With the broken thumb. Yeah, it became a bit of it was a sevens thing initially that we would, we played against some international, no, it might have been a tour thing actually. I mean, I was a breakdancer. I was a keen and terrible breakdancer in my youth because when I came out, like Wild Style and Breakdance the movie were coming out, and me and my friends would go down to the cinema with like a lino and pretend we could breakdance. We were just awful at it. And then when we were playing rugby, we came across this team in Melbourne at the Melbourne Tens, and they did like a mini haka. And I felt like we had nothing to offer as a team. So I started to breakdance in a breakdance circle. Like the only thing culturally I could bring was some kind of just sort of flinging myself around the ground and doing some popping and locking. And then when we came back, we did a couple of summer sevens tournaments, and it would become then the thing that we did at the kickoff. And yes, I believe when I got to Twickenham, I did actually, I had a little spin for myself and I think I had probably a group of people came down to watch from Colf. So I did it for them as a little present. Yeah.
Magic.
You got to do it. You got to do those stuff. I mean, that's the fun of that stuff, isn't it? It's just, those things just kind of become small things that grow into like, things you do every week.
Folklore. Yeah.
yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure. Now, this is a subject which might not be as much fun. Yeah. Your last game for Old Colfeians.
Oh yeah,
last game of your career.
Well, I guess it was coming. It was coming. Yes, it wasn't a great game for me. I towards the end of my career, I just became very grisly. Right. I realised, and I remember playing against these players when I was sort of starting playing rugby, and I'd come across these sort of late, what now felt like just old men, but would have been in their mid-30s. Yeah. Grizzly, mostly down in Gloucestershire and Somerset, where I played when I was at college. I played down at Bath and was sort of not thrown out of Bath, but I was like in their third development team, and they would send you off to play for like a local, mine was Bath Old Edwardians. And I'd go off and basically just get beaten up by old guys. Yeah. And I used to think, these guys are so miserable all the time and they're just hitting me. Why are they hitting me? And I realised it's because you just get really slow, and the only armour you have is some sort of rugby streetwise thing, right? So you just clobber someone at a line out to put them off because they're young and springy and really good. And you sort of feel yourself chasing them around the park. And then towards the end of my career at Colf's, I started just chasing younger men around the park. They were fitter than me, they were stronger than me, they were better than me, but I was a little bit nasty. I got nasty. I became like a pantomime villain. And I would clear rucks out because I was late and I was a bit of a swinging arm. And I regret it. I don't regret it, but it was definitely, there were signals coming before that last match that I was creating more mistakes. Like I'd been in front of the disciplinary. I got a yellow card. You might remember this. I remember getting yellow carded for yelling at a fly half from a kickoff. I got 10 minutes in the bin as the captain of Colfeians, where I yelled, like, come on, or something really loud.
Something really terrifying.
Really terrifying at the fly half, and the referee sent me off for unsportsmanlike behaviour.
I didn't remember that.
I got yellow carded for leading with a head in a ruck. I got yellow carded for something else. And anyway, I was spending more time in front of the Kent disciplinary panel every season. So in my last game, it must have been very close to the end of the game. And I remember Ben Hyde was getting a little bit of a kicking from the Richmond scrum half. And I ran in with a big leading arm and basically took someone out. And unfortunately, it connected with their nose, I believe, which is ironic, really, I guess. Something serendipitous. And I got a red card in front of the home crowd. And it was supposed to be my last game. And of course, that was just the indignity of it, I guess, the shame. meant it wasn't my last game, but it was then my last game.
Can't go out on that.
Yeah, I can't go out on that. But I remember going down to the Kent disciplinary, and bless them, I knew all of them so well now because I'd been in front of them for so many years. They were like, Griff, what have you done now? And I sat there and I just told them that it was like a tackle. It was a ruck. I was clearing out a ruck and it was a bad connection. And they looked at me and just said, okay, Griff, there's a 6-week ban and there's your thing. But it was, I realised at that point that it was probably time to hang up my boots.
Yeah.
It's rugby tells you. It's very funny. It's either an injury or something mentally tells you that it's just time. I didn't want to be that player, I guess, is the thing. And I turned into that guy I always hated when I was growing up.
So you took yourself out of the game for the good of the game.
For the good of the game, for the Kent panels, they didn't have to see me anymore. I played. I really enjoyed after that. I really enjoyed vets, but certainly, the sort of the game became too young for me. I was aged out. I was essentially aged out of rugby. But you know, it's like that at that point, amateur rugby, there was a bit more attrition. There was a little bit more of that contact and little punch-ups and stuff would occur.
Yeah, it still happened for sure.
Yeah. I mean, I don't see it so much now, even in the amateur game. I think it's sort of been pretty much eradicated.
Yeah, I think obviously at the top end of the game, it's been eradicated completely because you'll get fined and banned and people just can't take that risk for their career. And I think that's just filtered down. Yeah. So generally speaking, overall, the amount of incidents like that are way less than they used to be.
Yeah. I mean, it used to be pretty much standard. There would be a full team punch up at some point in the game or, a number of them. Maybe it is just that they've done that. I mean, fair play to the RFU. They've created a culture. Maybe that's just not acceptable anymore all the way down and kids aren't seeing it. So they're not acting out because that's part of it, isn't it? I used to watch, Bayfield or whatever. Yeah. Wade Dooley wading into the French, and you think, well, this is what rugby's about. It is culturally that's what it was about, and it's not anymore.
No, I think it's probably more from the director of rugby. It's more from the individual clubs who are driving that professionalism and driving that standard of not screwing it up for the team, basically. Because if you take yourself out, then you're screwing the team up, and I think that's probably where it's come more than from the RFU.
Well, and I think that's also a sort of testament to the standard of amateur rugby now is that before, I would say a yellow card would not necessarily impact our team. Like teams weren't good enough. Certainly when we were playing sort of London 1 and even National 3 a little bit, you weren't getting punished for losing a player for 10 minutes. You just weren't. It wasn't like teams were scoring 3 or 4, a couple of tries or getting a try in. Yeah. It actually wasn't effective. So you could lose a player and still teams weren't able to work out how to punish you.
Yeah, you're right. The margins weren't that fine at that level.
No.
So, yeah.
You were either getting really beaten by a team or you were really beating them. It was kind of, there was, so I think that in a way that I'm glad that it was an end of an era, I guess. That bit of my naughtiness. I mean, I really miss the physicality of rugby. I really miss it. Even now when I'm watching, I get this sort of physical need to want to run through someone or kind of that feeling. It's something pretty unique, I think, to our sport.
What do you do anything to like kind of use that energy or?
No, unfortunately, I cycle. I do a bit of, I've joined the massive list of mammals down the club or ex-players. And I played a bit of vets, when I moved sort of southwest. So I moved from this area, Colfeians, and I moved down. I started playing for Guildford Vets a little bit because they were my local team. They were a good bunch of lads, actually. But when I went to LA, there's not really a rugby culture out there as such. So there was no vets for me. In fact, I went to try and play in LA, and I went down every day I drove past Griffiths Park. I could see a team training. I was like, this is perfect. I could get a few games in
on your doorstep.
On my doorstep, and I get a bit bored when I'm working out there because I'm not with my mates or family, so I'm always looking for something to do. And so I turned up there, and the training was terrible. I mean, they were terrible players, but the guys had beards. There was a lot of men with beards. So they seemed like my sort of people. So because they had beards.
Yeah, okay.
And there was like a good bunch of lads, really. So we were training a bit, and of course, I think during the training they worked out that I was probably not that bad, and some of those guys were not great. But they said, do you want to come down and play on Saturday? So I turned up and I played a bit of the game, and the shock of it for me was just the no arm tackle.
Oh.
We played against this team, and there's a lot of South Sea Islanders down there on that west coast who obviously their dads played rugby or they know rugby, but they were playing like American football style, no arm, just flying in. It was the most dangerous game of rugby I've ever played. And not because they were good or no one was good. It was just a really hard ground, and people flying in, just taking people out. And that was the first time in a long time I was like, I think this might be not my game. I was physically like, I'd probably break my leg at this point. I might get injured. So I finished that game and vowed not to go back. But afterwards, it was funny, is that they asked me to come for a drink. They didn't have a clubhouse or anything, so they said, follow us to this bar. They named the bar. I walked up to the bar, huge rainbow outside. And I worked out I'd played for the only gay rugby team in Los Angeles.
Oh, amazing!
Yeah, great group. But that was a first for me.
Yeah.
Hence the beards, I guess. There was culturally that's a thing.
Yeah.
But no, we had a really good bunch of lads. We had a great night in the gay bar, having a good drink up. Yeah. That was my one LA experience was, with a really fine group of lads. It was good. It was good fun. Yeah, that's the sort of thing with rugby. Like, you can go anywhere in the world, really, and sort of find a group of like-minded people.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's talk about, we alluded to it a little bit earlier, your directing movies and TV stuff and that in LA. Now, with the success of Invictus, the movie, I'm wondering if you've got any ideas for some kind of rugby feature film, and if you have, what kind of story might you tell?
Well, you know what, I was developing a story with a writer about the split of rugby between rugby union and league, which was very interesting. I sort of got involved in that a bit. It was a period piece, but it was about how the miners were kind of wanting to get paid to play in Yorkshire and in Wales. They were feeling like the rich sort of miner owners were not paying them for playing on a Saturday, but it was for their entertainment, and they felt like they were not getting paid in the mines because they were playing, so they wanted some remuneration. And of course, that's when the split happened. They said, no, if you want to do that, and they went south and did all their sort of gentleman stuff, and the league went and started paying players. So I was sort of involved in that, and that was fun. But my struggle with it is I always think that sports movies are not are very poor imitations of the sport. Boxing, with an exception of boxing, because the camera work of sports, coverage is so incredibly expensive and so good.
Right.
Well, it's not expensive, but for a film to replicate that is enormous. Like, to have, 20 cameras replicating all those moves and to get the angles they get is just really difficult.
Well, there was that Bollywood rugby movie. They seem to actually maybe.
I don't think I saw that.
No. I've only seen a promo for it.
Oh, that sounds amazing. We've got to do that.
It's unbelievable.
I love that. I mean, I love the Richard Harris movie, based on the David Story book, which is a great movie. Now my brain, this is concussion for you. It was about the rugby league. It was like a black and white kitchen sink 1960s movie.
Right.
Really good. In that sort of Saturday night, Sunday morning kind of vibe. But it was Richard Harris played this professional rugby league player. It was a really good interpretation of the game. But I guess for me, just where you put a camera to get the sense of the physicality, it would be more like a boxing movie in that sense, right? Because they're able to get the camera in the ring with the players and it feels like super action. Whereas rugby, it's quite hard to do that.
And make it work for a movie.
Yeah, for a movie. Yeah. I'm always nervous. Like, football movies aren't great. Friday Night Lights is good. Some American football stuff's quite good. But yeah, I would love to. Oh, maybe I should do it. Yeah, I don't know what the story would be. But it's a fun. Maybe it's something to do. Yeah, I think I'm nervous about doing a bad job of it. That's because my process for doing anything when I'm directing a TV show or a film is like, what's the worst version of it? That's where I go to in my head, and then I'm like, how do I not make it the worst version?
I'm really positive.
Yeah, really positive. It basically, every decision I make has to be to stop it being the worst version. So so rugby is hard because I don't know whether I could not make it really bad.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, well, you mentioned something there as well about concussions, and we've chatted about this previously, where there's obviously quite a lot of highlighted cases now with concussion, and people are getting taken off the pitch for HIAs and stuff like this, and the awareness is a lot greater now than it has ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that's just going to continue to rise. But the question is like, we're not sure whether, because I've been concussed several times during games, and I know you have as well.
Yeah.
And we're just wondering whether what's normal, in terms of how you feel, and is this, have I been affected or not? And it's very difficult to know.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about it before, and I do consider it to be a sort of an issue that's worth exploring for us. I mean, I know on the professional side, as you say, there's definitely more studies being done, but for a lot of amateur players, it is an issue of concern. I've certainly found myself, and it could just be being old, but I've certainly got very bad short-term. Long-term's fine, but short-term memory goes very quickly. Names go very quickly to the degree that it wasn't there before. So I was having some problems actually with circulation to do with the cycling. I was having like jammed up shoulder where I broke my shoulder playing. And I've got, like you, I'm sure, from scrummaging, I've got that reverse curvature of my C something in my neck, where you get this kind of distortion of the spine at the very top of your neck from shoving.
Yeah, I've definitely got something there.
It's like a slight calcification, but also like a little curvature. So I went and saw this someone in LA, and I guess the healthcare system there is not NHS, which I'm super proud of, but they are very thorough, because they make a lot of money out of being thorough. And luckily in my job I have a really good coverage. So I went and got the circulation tested in my shoulder and my neck. Sorry, this is a long way of going around it, but they did some tests on me, and they worked out that I had a sort of an issue with some of my circuitry of getting information to my fingers and through this gap. I've got a tiny gap here. But they also did a study of my brain when I mentioned the concussions, because they asked me about the concussions. And they started doing a study, and they worked out that I had like a calcification on the brain. They sent me off with which didn't do much for my confidence. They sent me off with an early onset dementia handbook of what to do to kind of keep your memory going. It's basically do puzzles.
Right.
Just do lots of puzzles like old people.
Yeah, like Sudoku.
Yeah, Sudoku. Just do Sudoku. But it was interesting in the sense of, like, I didn't want to know it, but I'm glad I do know it, that there is something related to concussion and some of the problems I'm having or experiencing. And I think those studies need to get, they need to move quickly with those so they can protect those young ones. Because, as you say, it was almost a badge of honour to take a knock and carry on. Yeah. And that's ridiculous.
Yeah. Like you, I'm sure, like I lied about how I was feeling after a knock to the head many, many times so I could carry on playing.
Yeah. And there was it's, you have this invincibility cloak when you're young. And that's about education, really. Like, young players need to know that is not going to serve them well. I mean, I don't know what I was thinking when I looked at the old alacadoos in the bar when I was like 25, and I'd look at them all hobbling around, just think, oh, that's not going to be me.
Yeah, I'll be fine.
And now I go to the bar and we're all hobbling around. So it's like, it's there. It's like taking care of your body for long-term health is a huge thing. I think we have to, and because it's such a great sport, you just don't want it to be something that becomes hugely negative for young'uns. Just take care. Nothing's worth it. Nothing's worth, 5 minutes extra so you can say in the bar that, I carried on though. Yeah. It's like, who cares?
Yeah, it doesn't matter.
No,
at the end of the day.
Just look after yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good message. Just look after yourself.
Just look after yourself. Yeah. Listen to your body. I didn't do any of that. You didn't do that.
I didn't do that.
I mean, we used to play with, I remember by the end I was getting like full acupuncture in my neck just to play. Yeah. And then straight after, full acupuncture to sort of, and they would do anything to get you on the pitch, right? Strapping, acupuncture, drugs, not illegal drugs, people. That would have been nice. No, it was all, the effort was made to, without any regard really, just get yourself back on there and no, I didn't do any rehab, so now my shoulder doesn't move. Yeah. I'm sure you've got the same.
A few bits and pieces, yeah, not too bad though.
But it was a cultural thing, like rehab, no, I want to get back. I want to make myself available. So that's I hope that's changing a bit.
I think it is. I think it slowly is, yeah.
Well, it's as professionalism sort of seeps down. It's a slow filter, isn't it?
Yeah, I think it is. And this is one of the things that's come up a few times on the pod. It's called the Amateur Rugby Podcast, but I'm interested in how things have changed, and some things are positive, some things less so.
Yeah.
But I think some of these things are definitely positive that are coming down from the elite game.
Yeah, I guess I miss some of the kind of chaos from what I see of amateur rugby, early amateur rugby. There was a kind of a rambunctious sort of fun to be had. It was all just like, some of my best memories of amateur rugby are, like someone like Di Andrew, who was a great hooker I played with when I first came to Colfs, and he would just be on the touchline with a fag, just take a last, as you sort of put him on as a replacement, he'd just take a last drag of his cigarette and come on and play and be the best player on the pitch by far, and then just go straight onto the fag again. I mean, they were just things that you don't really see now, I don't think. I mean, I hope it's still out there, I guess, because it's kind of, the thing about rugby, which is so good, is it just embraces so many different types and physicalities and all that stuff. It's still fun.
Yeah.
But also on that concussion thing, the other thing that I've been looking at, which we've been both affected by, is, and not to take a dark turn, but I think it's worth sort of talking about in that same thing, is that our discussions were about also like male depression. And I did this TV show where we focused on one of the big focuses was mental health. The writer lost a very good friend to suicide, and wanted to write about that experience, and mostly because as he started to write about it, realised that no one really talks about what they're feeling. So the last time he saw his friend, he arranged to meet him, and then, within 2 weeks, he'd taken his own life. There was nothing seemingly on the outside to be wrong. And we made a show which spoke to that. And there's a moment in the show where there's three friends standing at a bar. They used to go to the hockey. The hockey was their game. They used to go to the hockey every week together. And they kind of, one of the friends stands there and say, look, we know each other, but we never talk. We just have a laugh about other stuff, but we never talk about how we're feeling. And so then I started to get some really good advice from a wonderful doctor who actually dealt with a lot of the NYPD and the fire department people after 9/11. So she was dealing with a lot of the depression from that PTSD, and also just the amount of suicides that actually happened after that amongst those group of firefighters and police officers. And she actually, the studies that they showed were a lot of these things were about just communication and not being, and we actually share a lot with that culture, the amateur rugby culture, or rugby culture does. And I've lost some rugby friends. I know you have, to suicide. So she put me in touch with Leon Lloyd's charity, which is called switchtheplay.com. And Leon, who was obviously at Leicester, is working very hard with kind of how you transition from rugby back into, when you lose rugby from your life, even if it's as an amateur, like what do you replace it with, and how do you kind of deal with that? And it's mostly about your friends, the friendship group, because just her studies show that men tend to get all of their kind of support from actually non-verbals, just being with each other,
right?
Not talking.
Yeah.
But what they need to do is transition. That is that what we're bad at is then we remove ourselves from that, and then we're really bad at then communicating with people that we need them to be around us again. So men generally start to isolate themselves further and further until they can't see the horizon. They can't see anything beyond what tomorrow looks like. So my passion at the moment is to try and have a conversation about men talking.
Yeah.
Like we're doing right now.
Right now.
But actually talking about, like, rugby is great, and talking about that is great. Being part of a rugby club is fantastic. But when that support goes, how do you keep that support in your life? And it's either trying to be a part of your friendship group, trying to keep that conversation going, not isolating yourself, and just talking about how you're feeling.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you're right. And I think it's very important. And something you mentioned there, I think is also quite key, that it's not just the professional end of the game where this is apparent, because admittedly those guys, it's all they do all day, every day for however long they're lucky, to play the game for. But it definitely affects people at the amateur level as well, because as you just described there, it's all about that support group, and it's about the culture and where you feel comfortable. And sometimes that sort of goes away and it's never replaced, really. Yeah,
because I think that weekend, you take it for granted, I guess, when you're doing it, but training a couple of times a week, even if it is only training once a week, playing on a Saturday, if you lose that altogether and you don't replace it with anything, even if you're just working more or, you have a family, all those things are good. But in terms of just sort of male friendships, that's a big loss. So you have to try and kind of maintain that. And it is hard work to do that when you have a family and a job and you start to feel like these things aren't a priority anymore. But that for men, that friendship group, just proximity, just being together is hugely important. So we have to strive to kind of maintain like meeting up every week or replacing it with a cycle that you do together or whatever you're doing. It's important just to get together again and try to transition from that rugby proximity to some other kind of way of hanging out. Because it is a loss. It's definitely like a grieving thing, even if it's amateur rugby, because it's such a huge part of your life.
Well, I was going to say that because for me, actually, it was pretty much the major part of my life. It was the kind of the thing that I was best at.
Yeah.
So that's my identity was all wrapped up in that, really.
Yeah.
So, there's a lot of us, like you mentioned earlier, turned into middle-aged men in Lycra. Yeah. So, doing marathons and triathlons and all this kind of stuff. And I think, it's not a surprise that that's the case because we are all trying to just sort of not replace it, but find a different way to,
Yeah, and it is a search. You see, people do pick up lots of different things to look for that. Well, there's two things, isn't there? One is to look for that buzz. It's and the other thing is to sort of find that sense of self-worth. As you say, like it was something for a long time as I was sort of trying to work out being a filmmaker. The one, and it was a struggle for sure. It was very difficult to get into that field. Rugby was a thing that I could actually say I'm achieving at. And for a lot of people, just that achievement, turning up on a Saturday, whether it's winning or just being part of a team, is an achievement. And then you can get so much out of that as a man, which we need. We sort of do need it, just innately. We need to feel like we're valued. We're herd animals. Like if we start to feel lonely and outside of that, that's when it gets into trouble. So part of rugby, what it gives us is a sense of community and like worth, I guess. Yeah. And your worth is tied up in like, I'm really good at scrummaging. Yeah. And that could be it. That's it. Which you were, Tim. You were very, very good.
Thank you, mate.
I don't know why you moved to number 8. That was very strange. Just wanted to run around more.
No, I tell you why. It was because I joined the fire brigade and I hurt my back.
Oh, right.
So I wanted to avoid re-injuring my back badly or, possibly...
the attrition.
Yeah. Just that first couple of years when I was new in the fire brigade, I didn't want anything to muck that up. Yeah. So that was why. Yeah.
I mean, very good, very fine number 8.
I know. I won Player of the Year as a back rower and a front rower at Old Colfeians.
Oh, I see. Yeah. That's it. That's what we're talking about. Like achievements.
Absolutely. So we will link up Leon Lloyd's charity in the show notes, and talk to people. Everybody.
Yeah, just get in touch with. I don't know. Get in touch with the WhatsApp groups and stay in touch and keep talking and
get the Lycra on.
Get the Lycra on. Get yourself a marathon. All that stuff's good, isn't it? It's got to keep fit. I mean, I don't know how you replace the physicality of it.
Yeah, that's difficult.
Boxing is not something I want to do.
No, because you get punched in the head.
Yeah.
But, I mean, something that's getting more and more popular now is Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
Right.
Which is obviously quite physical, but it's also quite cerebral as well. And because you're not getting punched in the head, you can do it kind of full bore.
Right.
Like you can really go for it in sparring and, because everybody's responsible for each other. You're not trying to hurt each other. You're just trying to win. So that's something that a lot of people are doing now.
Yeah. Yeah. One of our friends, Patrick Vickers, is a proponent, right? He came out to LA and was sort of on a little bit of an odyssey to carry on that. And and now Haskell's doing something.
Very topical. Yeah, he's joined Bellator.
Yeah, MMA.
As a heavyweight.
It's amazing.
It's going to be very interesting, that. I think I'd listened to a podcast this week about it. This is going to come out in December, our podcast that we're talking about now. So
he would have thought already.
Yeah, but no, maybe not. Yeah. But we're recording this in, what is it now? Early September.
Yeah.
And he's just signed for Bellator. But he may never fight.
Yeah.
So he's going to go through all the training, and the idea is that at some point he will get in the ring and fight, but only if and when he's ready. So he may not ever fight.
Right. Wow.
So it's a process, and they've started that, and he's going to train and try and build up to it. But it might be a long way off yet.
Yeah.
Who knows?
That'll be fun.
Yeah.
Fun to see the transition. We had got old Christian Wade's move across the the NFL, which has been interesting. But he got cut, didn't he?
Yeah, by the Bills, yeah. He could still get picked up, though, apparently.
Right.
By a different team.
I don't know why there's not more crossover there, because having watched a lot of it while I've been over there, there's some, you could basically do it.
Yeah. I could.
Yeah, right. It's just like running straight and hard. And actually, my son played for a bit at school, obviously, and his job was just to sort of push people. You know, he was like a tight end or something.
Yeah.
It's like, there's nothing else. You don't have to have the skill to even pass a ball.
Yeah, it's
rugby is so much more multi-skilled. It's like one-dimensional. If you're a prop, you would basically just be pushing your prop the whole game. Whenever you come on, then you'd rest.
That sounds like a really good game for some people.
Yeah,
some people would love that.
Yeah, no hands on it, no like passing, no tackling. It's weird.
Yeah. Okay, let's move on to the Rugger Law Bore section.
Yes.
So nobody knows all the laws. I don't believe anybody.
No.
But that's no reason not to try and get better. So how would you rate your law knowledge, Griff?
Absolutely awful.
Really, that good?
Yeah, I'm probably a 3.
Right. Okay.
That's why I would always get up referees' noses, because I'd probably get it wrong.
Yeah.
Most of the time. Hence being sent off for yelling. Didn't know that law.
Okay. Well, with that in mind, it's time to find out, James Griffiths, if you are a Rugger Law Bore.
Sir, are you sure that's correct?
Griff, here is your question.
Yes.
And it's going to hark back to your early days of playing fullback, possibly.
Oh, I like it.
Yeah. So a player takes a mark.
Yes.
But due to being injured, he can't take the mark within 1 minute. What happens? Is it A, another player on his team can take the free kick? B, scrum to the team in possession? Or C, scrum to the team that is not in possession?
I'd say A, another player can take the kick.
That's incorrect.
What? That's insane. Because when you can take a mark, can't you just pass it to someone to take the kick?
No, you have to
kick it.
You have to play the ball first. You have to take the free kick first, and then what happens is people then pass to somebody else to kick after they've taken the free kick themselves.
Right. Oh, fail.
So it's scrum to the team in possession.
Okay, so they just get a restart.
They just get a restart.
Scrum.
Yeah, a scrum rather than.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Kind of an incentive to injure that player after the mark, really.
So you can compete at the scrum.
I'd be like, come on, let's take that guy out. Kick it deep and take him out.
You just show him more while you're giving up the game, Griff.
Grizzly.
Nasty grifter.
Nasty Griff. Just being horrible.
Horrible.
Sorry.
But that being said, Griff, you're not a Rugger Law Bore.
Ah. Well, I'm quite pleased about that, actually.
Yeah.
Yes. There's a stigma attached to the Rugger Law Bores.
Yeah.
You were very good. You were always as a captain, you were very good at like the rugby strategy, which I was very weak at, but your line out calls and strategies and team play and all that stuff was exceptional. Hence why you went on to be a coach.
I did.
You're a bit of a nerd.
I'm a bit of a rugby nerd. There's no question about that. Yeah. So I did. I find it all really interesting, and I observed that stuff in games. You know, a lot of people just watch the ball.
Yeah.
But I like absorbing all the little details and the nuances and stuff like that. Yeah. So yeah.
There's something for everyone, Tim.
There definitely is. Hope so.
Yeah. Yeah. Me too.
Okay, so on to stash. What is your favourite bit of stash that you've ever received?
Oh, I tell you what, this is at the time it was from my friend Charlie Clayton, and he was playing at Nottingham and gave me a Nottingham training top.
Ooh.
It was a really good, and at the time it was sort of, I guess, slightly more semi-professional than we were, and it was a green top with the Nottingham logo, and it was quilted, so it was warm. I had that for a very long time until it got ripped, but it was a really good piece of stash.
Do you remember who ripped it?
No, but it was it'll be caught up in training at some point. Yeah, but it was a nice.
Probably Colin Garland.
Probably Garland.
Yeah,
some one of those guys, ruthless, inappropriately aggressive, like Vickers.
Yeah,
someone like Patrick Vickers, who was always far too keen at training. To my other point earlier on, didn't enjoy that at training.
Okay. What is your favourite kit of all time? So this can be any team of any era. You don't have to have played for them or anything like that. Just
the kit. I'd say my favourite kit to play. I mean, I was honoured to play in the Bath kit.
Nice.
I got to play for the Bath Spartans, which is basically their under-19s development team. But also we would get to play with players coming back from injury. So I think Dave Edgerton was playing when I played, and John Hall would coach us, and Andy Robinson coached us. But they were all playing, obviously.
Right.
But I got to play in that kit down at Lansdowne Road for Bath. So I was, that's a lovely piece of kit.
Bath kit is nice.
It's nice.
Yeah.
The blue, black, white. I mean, it was old school kit. I mean, now the kits are beautiful in their own right? Because they're sort of skin tight and fun, which was something that I struggled with when I went to Twickenham last week and had to buy an England supporters shirt. That's a tight fit.
Even the supporters one?
Oh, man, it's still very clingy.
Oh, God.
Yeah. Don't want to... Well, it's fine from the front. It's fine from the side. It's that 3/4 angle where you see a saddlebag. This sort of slight growth that's happening at the back above my belt. Above my sort of back pocket.
Yeah, just hanging out there.
Just hanging out there. That's not good. But yeah, no, it was those new kits are pretty special. Yeah.
Talking of new kits,
yeah.
What is your current stash crush? So like a kit that's out at the moment, maybe new for the World Cup or or new for the Premiership, or conversely, if there's one that you think is horrific and should be banished to the bin.
I have a stash crush, but only because it's much smaller than that. I probably have a Premiership one, but my son has started school at Seaford College, and I'm so jealous of his stash.
Really?
His kit is beautiful, blue and white hoops, but they've got a lovely bit of shading around the chest and back. It's dark blue at the back, hoops at the front, and like a graduation of the hoop into the blue on the sides.
Nice. What kind of blue is it?
It's a dark blue, a navy blue. Yeah. But it's a very classic, but it's a beautiful piece of kit. The shorts are nice with the embroidery. The tracksuits are very elegant. So I turned up there and I was like, oh, damn. So I ordered a fleece online. And so I can be a really bad touchline dad in my fleece. Premiership-wise, I don't know. That's my favourite stash crush at the moment. Premiership-wise, I don't know, actually. No. I mean, I support Quins, so they always have
their new kit this year is great. I think it's really good this year.
Yeah, so they're always a fun team to support with their stash. What about you?
Current ones, I actually haven't thought about this. I mean, you can't look beyond Argentina, I don't think.
Oh, it's a beautiful kit.
It's a wonderful kit.
Yeah, do you remember when we played that team in Darwin?
I did.
That was a good bit of stash that I had.
I've still got that.
I've still got that Darwin shirt. Very much like Cambridge Uni.
Yeah.
Argentina. And I had the socks. I picked up the socks, and it was that whatever that Darwin team was.
Yeah.
I can't remember what they called. They had like a bulldog logo, didn't they?
Yeah, and so we played them on tour in 2001.
Yes, 2000 the Lions.
Yeah, in 2001, and they had great tour rugby rules.
Yes.
Do you remember they had a tin bin?
Yes.
So we're playing, and if you got a yellow card, and bearing in mind, there was about 30 or 40 yellow cards in this game because the referee was just giving them for anything.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know, running sideways or something like that. You'll get a yellow card.
Tackling an old person.
Yeah. And then you had to go to the tin bin, neck a tin of beer before you could come back on.
Yeah. It was a great rule. That was a fantastic tour.
Yeah.
We had a wonderful tour. That and that part of it, Darwin, I think, was my favourite bit. It was very much the end of the tour.
3 weeks that felt like a lifetime.
It was. I actually proposed to my wife when I got back after that. I vowed I didn't want to spend another minute with a man after that tour. It was very, very heavy. But yes, it was that kit was great actually. But I agree with you. That pale blue, so Cambridge, Argentina, and that team in Darwin. they're all good. Yeah, they're all good.
Amazing. Okay, mate. Well, we're going to wrap up there. So thank you so much for coming on the pod.
I could do this all day, man.
Yeah, exactly. It's been really fun. It's been a pleasure. And if people want to get hold of you, how might they be able to do that?
I guess on Facebook or something, or Instagram.
Yeah, and you're Twitter as well, aren't you?
Yes, Twitter.
Yeah, what I'll do is I'll link all those up in the show notes below. So if you want to get hold of Griff and have a chat.
Yeah, feel free. Yeah. I'm around.
So, if you want to make a movie or anything like that, right?
Yeah, just come in. I've got an idea for a rugby movie that I won't shoot. No, we might be able to do something. But no, thank you, mate. Thank you for coming over and being at my mum's house.
Yeah.
It's been lovely seeing you and catching up. I wish we could talk more about the rugby. It's been fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, thanks, mate.
All right, mate.
Thanks very much again to Griff. This really was an amazing chat. It's incredible the depths you go to when sat down with a microphone and a desire to scratch a little deeper. Thanks, buddy. Griff mentioned Leon Lloyd's social enterprise, Switch to Play, If you're interested in that, then I've put a link in the show notes below. Also, sharing the podcast love, Leon and Lewis Moody have a new podcast out this season called After the Whistle. If you like my podcast, then I think you'll probably also like theirs. Please give the pod some social media love by leaving ratings and reviews on Apple Podcasts, or simply mention it to someone in person the next time you're down your local rugby club. I will be back with you next week when my guest will be Stephen Corlett. Taff and I played many seasons together in the front row at Old Colfeians, and his thoughtful insights into how teams work and what rugby can use from business are not to be missed. The game here today at Richmond was a cagey affair, with defences winning the day, but Richmond saw it out by 19 points to 8. My cockles were well and truly frozen by the end, and I'm very grateful that I'll be somewhere warmer next week. So, until then, get out and play.